Okay, this is part one of my analysis of Blade Runner. Part one of my analysis of Rick Deckard. Okay, so in the last video I mentioned this video would talk about if Rick Deckard was a replicant, and this is one of the biggest arguments that I've seen to date, and you know, it could go either way. The director says he's a replicant, but Harrison Ford says he's not. So I'm gonna try to talk about if he is a replicant. Now, what I understand, because I've never seen the original, I've only seen the director's cut. What I understand, in the original, it leans more onto him being a human, while in the director's cut, it leans more on him being a replicant. And this is evidence because, in the director's cut that I saw, Harrison Ford he's always like acting weird. And in the end, the biggest evidence is when he picks up the unicorn. And earlier in the movie, he has like this weird random daydream about a unicorn. And in this movie, what it's trying to lead on to is the unicorn represents, because in this movie, replicants can have memories. So whatever they imagine, whatever they see, they're gonna think it as a memory. And what the movie's trying to lean on to is because since Harrison Ford picks up the unicorn, he had a memory about the unicorn. So he's a replicant. And there's also some other stuff that they mention, like I heard someone say that he's a replicant because Edward James Olmos says, "You done a man's job," which hints that he's not actually a man. Like, he had to mention that it was a man's job. And there's also something else, like he had super strength because, like, even though he had broken fingers, he could climb up the building. Like, there's a lot of evidence, but is it enough to really say that he's a replicant? Well, it's kind of hard to say because there is evidence that says that he's not a replicant too. But it really just depends. It really just falls down to which ending you want. Like, it depends on the audience interpretation of the ending. And me, if he is a replicant, that tells me that the entire movie is based on the idea that it's not actually a story, it's more on the audience interpreting the movie. Like, I'm gonna try to explain it. Since the movie begins with you thinking that Rick Deckard is a human and ends with it supposedly telling you that Rick Deckard is a replicant, it means that the movie's trying to tell you, if you thought Rick Deckard was a human when he really isn't, how are you so sure that, like, the replicants are different from the humans? It really becomes not Rick Deckard's story, but it becomes the audience's feelings towards what they just saw. It's because, like, if Rick Deckard is a replicant, it kind of takes away the whole story, his character arc, because really what the movie was, if he is a replicant, it takes away him trying to rediscover his humanity if he was a human, because he's not. And there's also some other stuff that, like, if he is a replicant, it kind of takes away, like, the ending where Rutger Hauer, I forgot his character name, he's on the roof and he saves him and he says, treasure your life. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense if he's a replicant when that's supposed to be said to a human, because the whole treasure your life argument only works if Rick Deckard's a human. So I don't know, like, it depends on whether you want the story to be more on Rick Deckard's character, or you want the story to be more about the audience's the audience's feeling towards the movie. If Rick Deckard is a replicant, it doesn't really add up. And there's also a lot of things that don't make it add up, like why would they hire a replicant to take out other replicants? Like, it leads to a lot more questions if he is a replicant. So I'm not saying he's not a replicant, but it's something to think about if you think he is a replicant. And don't just believe Ridley Scott, even if Ridley Scott says he's a replicant, like, because Harrison Ford says he's not, so anyone could be right. So, alright, that's it for him being a replicant. Next video, him being human.